But if we can't live together, we're gonna die alone.
Hello guys, this is your girl Najwa. Thank you for being back to my channel. Please do me a favor, if you have not already, go ahead and take this little finger and click the like and subscribe button. Click the bell so you always know when I post a video. So today I want to talk a little bit about Nancy Pelosi's accomplishments. Now, just a little backstory. I started reading President Obama's A Promised Land, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And for those of you who have watched my recent video about that, I talk about how back in 2008, when I was only 16 years old, I want to say, I started campaigning on Obama's presidency, going door to door in my neighborhood and telling people about Obama, giving them signs and things like that. And I just remember, as my parents being two very, very devout Democrats, them being so proud. I remember myself being so proud, being so hopeful, and basically that's got me into that era. Like, that reading that book has really had me thinking about politicians from that era. It's had me thinking about, you know, where are we today politically, and how does that have to do with that era, you know? So it's really had me thinking. And we all know about January 6th, you know, the storming of the Capitol back in 2021. Basically the implications of that, how Nancy Pelosi's husband was brutally attacked in his home because someone who they had been incited by hate had broke into their house and was attempting to get Nancy Pelosi and kneecap her, you know, to kneecap her. And you know, that right there just speaks to this culture that we have entered into, this era that we've entered into, where people really just feel like they have the right to do whatever it is that they want. People feel like rules don't apply to them. And so I was just thinking back and thinking about how Nancy Pelosi, her what do I want to say? Her participation in the Obama administration, and how much pride I felt for President Obama, how much pride I felt for Nancy Pelosi, and just the energy of the U.S. at that time was really interesting. And I'm going to get to Nancy Pelosi in a bit, but I feel like I just have to kind of give a little bit of context. You know, in Barack Obama's book, he said that, you know, at his time, MySpace was still a thing, you know, and, you know, there would be these articles that would come out about him, how he's Barack Hussein Obama, and how he was linked to terrorist groups, how his family was involved in Kenyan drug trafficking rings, how he was, you know, just stuff like that. You know, that like clickbaity, nasty stuff where on the surface, yeah, okay, maybe it seems clickbaity. Maybe it seems like, you know, a publication is just trying to use clout basically to basically get clicks or to get sales of their magazine or whatever it is. But behind that, you really see racism, you see, and not just with Obama, with plenty of people, you know, with plenty, especially of usually Democratic type figures, you know, people who are more liberal, you know, it's like the far right media, it's used for clickbait, it's used for clout, but on the other hand, there's something more sinister behind it. There's something, you know, many times that's linked with racism, that's linked with misogyny, that's linked with sexism. And yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Now, you're probably asking, why did I show that Lost clip at the beginning of this video? Well, Lost is my favorite show, and I still watch it to this day. It just has really valuable life lessons in there. You know, it's entertaining, it is funny, it's tear-jerking, it's every single thing that you could think of, every single emotion. wrapped up into one show, but it has a deeper meaning to it. And so I mean, there's even a book called The Bible of Lost. Now, I'm Catholic, not trying to repudiate the name of the senior of the Lord or anything like that, but there's really valuable lessons in it. And so Jack is basically talking about that's one of the most famous lines from the show. If we cannot live together, we're going to die alone. Okay? Now, what does that have to do with Nancy Pelosi? I'm getting there. In Barack Obama's book, and he speaks about one of his most quoted words, there is no Black America. There's no white America. There's no Latino America. There's no Asian America. There's just the United States of America. And those words were so prolific, and he even talks about not knowing how prolific those words actually were. He went into his presidency, honestly, in a very endearing way with a lot of naivety, which he speaks on now, where he really didn't know some stuff was just going to hit the way that it did. And that basically is what we need to get back to. And those words from Lost really, really highlight that. We have gotten it to this time. And I really hope that it's because after 9/11, Barack Obama came after 9/11 for a reason. He came after a time of great national distraught, great national trauma and struggle, because that was a time where people really needed to be united. And in a way, I'm not going to say I'm thankful for the war in Iraq or for 9/11, but in a way, I'm thankful that I did grow up during this time where there was this concerted effort to sort of bring us together as many peoples from many backgrounds, many religions, many cultures, for us to unite as one. And that was what Obama was all about. And that is what Nancy Pelosi was all about. That's what she is all about. And basically right now, it seems like the opposition, the GOP wants to divide. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. In the past, I talked about, Bill Maher, where he talks about the old school Republicans and the new school Republicans. Old school Republicans, they were conservative, but they could still get along with Democrats. We could still have a level of unity. Sorry, somebody was putting something in the mailbox. We could still have a level of unity, that accentuated this need for us to come together. This need for us to be united, even as peoples of different backgrounds, people of different thought systems, people of different cultures, etc. That need was still there. And I don't want something bad to happen to the U.S. to get them to this point, but I'm over here at this point of what is going to need to happen for Democrats and GOP to just basically see we cannot continue on this way. It's almost like the extremist, social media is just, it's like Idris Elba said, social media is like an incubator. I'm going to talk about that at some point too, because what happened with him was crazy. But social media is like an incubator for controversy. That's what Idris Elba said. It's like an incubator for controversy. And I'm hoping that one day social media is going to be like the television. I'm hoping that right now all the hype is going, but eventually it's going to die down, because the incitement of hate, the incitement of extremism that's being caused, not by social media, by individuals and by entities, but through social media is very, very dire. And we need to remember democracy. We need to remember that whether we be conservative, we be centrist, I'm centrist, whether we be, liberal, whether we be from this culture, from that country, from this immigrant community, whatever it is, from this subculture, not to forget, the struggles of women, the struggles of LGBTQ, the struggles of the disabled. We need to remember that if we can't live together, we're going to die alone. That's what's going to happen. And right now, it is so pertinent. I speak a lot about the UK here. I've lived in the UK, I've lived in the US, I've lived in France. And so those are the countries that I kind of speak about the most. Even though France has this division, I feel like it's pretty much okay. Like, there's the level of just plateau here. But in the US, in the UK, it's very, 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 very polarized. Now, there's some parts of France that's polarized too. There's polarization everywhere. There's problems in every country. But in the US, in the UK, there is a certain level of extremism that's happening right now that has dire implications. And I'm going to explain to you why. We can keep fighting at each other. We can keep infighting within our own countries, you know, like, speak about patriotism. How can you call yourself a patriot, but you reject part of the citizens of your own country? We can be bickering and fighting back and forth with one another, or we can be defeated by some other powers. Now, I'm not going to get into what those powers are because you already know what they are. You know what countries they are. Now, we can either be divided and get swallowed on up together, or we can be united and we can stand as a united front and counter the problems that we have, that we face in this day and age together. There's so many things that need our focus and our attention, and we are not going to be able to reach a solution by remaining divided. And I feel like that is what Nancy Pelosi's goal has always been. She's never ever just been the House Speaker of the Democrats. You know, she's been a speaker for the United States of America. If we can't live together, we are going to die alone. Now, off my soapbox. Let's get into some of these accomplishments. The first one that I really, really love is the fact that she was a housewife, really, before she even entered into her political career. Now, this is something I really can resonate with. Now, her father was mayor and her sister was a mayor, so that doesn't mean that she wasn't exposed to politics, but really that wasn't her focus. Her kids and her husband was her focus in the beginning. And she started to volunteer for the Democratic Party. Now, I told you about my time as a teenager where I volunteered, and I speak about this in the other video, but I really feel like I could have gone into a career of politics, but I really actually kind of fell off because I saw this polarization happening, and I was just like, no, 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 no. I just want a simple, calm life. I'm going to go into marketing. I will work for some clients who are, you know, into social justice and stuff like that when I can. And, you know, but this just shows you that life really does a full circle sometimes, because basically in the most recent years, my clients have been players within the advocacy community. And so, I think that it's really interesting that Nancy Pelosi started off as a volunteer. A lot of people go into politics for money. You know, they go into politics for not so savory agendas of their own, agendas of really hateful groups that are stemming up and popping up. But some people go into politics because they actually care about people. And Nancy Pelosi is one of those people. I love the fact that she came from a background as a housewife. I love that fact because that gave her, I feel like, this approachability, this connectedness with people where people could really understand her. Same thing with Barack Obama. You know, Barack Obama, him, you know, like coming from a really just basically middle class, hardworking family, hardworking kind of white American, you know, run-of-the-mill family on his mom's side, with his mom also being an advocate herself and being kind of an avid activist in her own right, and then having his dad's background, which we know his dad was absent, but having this Kenyan background, this African, this black experience also. I think that's what made him approachable and relatable to so many people. He could talk to the Hispanic communities. He could talk to the black communities. He could talk to the white communities. And again, I hate speaking in these terms, but these are the terms that America just wants to throw on everything. It's so ridiculous. By the way, I know a little bit random, but guys, Did you know that the term Caucasian is not even like correct? It's not politically correct, and it's also just literally not correct. Like the Caucasus region, I think that's the way you say it. It's not the Caucasus region. I've always been saying the Caucasus region, but it's actually the Caucasus region. It's actually just like, I think Albania, Jordan, parts of Russia, and I can't remember the other one. But it's just like 4 countries. And so America is just Caucasian, Caucasian, white. We just kind of like lump that term for white, but it's not even politically correct. So I feel like we really need to elevate ourselves to come above that. We need to remember our origins and our cultures, but we just need to get rid of seeing everything in black and white. But I think that generation saw that. And so Nancy Pelosi, she's like Obama. She's a figure like Obama in that sense that she was very, very relatable to many people. So I think it's admirable that she came from sort of, a background as a housewife to a volunteer to one of the most influential political women in American history. So the right will say everything that they want to say. $100 million was spent. $100 million, I think last year alone. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I know $100 million was spent to for politicians in their how do you call it when they do their campaigning? When they do their commercials and things like that. Basically trashing Nancy Pelosi. $100 million was spent by other politicians trashing Nancy Pelosi. Now, if you watch my Harry and Meghan videos, I feel like it's very, very related to that. These smear campaigns that happen against women, against liberals, against people who are for LGBTQ rights, people who are for black rights, people who are for minority rights, people who are for disabilities. Often this gaslighting that happens on a high monetary scale. It's like where people are actually really putting money, thought, effort into this is just disgraceful. But anyway, we're focusing on the positive in this video. So moving on to her other accomplishments. I really, really like her accomplishments. I really, really like the fact that Nancy Pelosi also, she's accomplished a few titles. Firsts, I want to say. She was the first minority House leader, and she was the first female Speaker of the House, and she is the first oldest Speaker of the House. So, oh God, guys, that thing that happened with her husband, the guy breaking into her house looking to kneecap her. There is a ardent hate for women. But anyway, the way that women are vilified in this day and age is just very, very bizarre to me. These are the women who birthed nations. These are the women are the people who gave birth to you. Your mothers, your grandmothers, your sisters. I mean, it really just shows the amount of Freudian misogyny that really exists in this day and age, and we have to continue to advocate for it. People want to silence you, people want to ignore that there's a problem, but we have to continue to advocate, because if we don't, really dire implications happen. So I really love that she made those accomplishments. She was the first minority Speaker of the House who was a woman. She was the first Speaker of the House who was a woman, and she was the oldest person to be the Speaker of the House. So she has made some incredible accomplishments, just as a woman, but also just as a politician. The other thing that I love is that she was a hot fire, and she was strategic. I mean, she really pounced on things, but at the right moment. I feel like she used some tactics really of the right, but for the left, or for the left sort of agendas, and that is one thing that the right hated. They hated that. But she would basically sit on some things. For example, with the war in Iraq, there were some really strategic things that she was very outspoken about not supporting that, but the way that she came about it, the way she did it, it was like she would be quiet and then she'd just come in for the win. So she was a woman to be reckoned with. What else? I also really love the fact that she advocated for health care. Oh yeah, for the Affordable Health Care Act. Now, this one really touches my heart because here in France, there's universal health care. And so if something's wrong, I just go to the doctor. And it's usually extremely inexpensive. I mean, sometimes I pay €1, €2, something like that. Nobody should have to, sit on health problems because they don't have health care. I mean, it doesn't make sense, especially for one of the wealthiest nations in the world. It just does not make sense. I think that it's really interesting because, well, it's not really interesting. It's very sad because I have friends back in the U.S. and, they might, whatever they're going through, if they got COVID, if they're going through postpartum depression, and I'm actually speaking from real instances, I just don't want to name names, but if they had COVID, they're going through postpartum depression, if they, have injured themselves and they can't go to the hospital because they don't have health care. If they can't go to a therapist because they don't have health care. 30 million Americans have health care because of Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. And people have totally put so much flack on them for that. Assuming that these people want to turn America into some communist, fascist, crazy, whatever. Well, some people want it to be fascist. But into some communist, crazy, commie, circus. When it's like, no, we just want kids to be able to go to the hospital if they break their leg. If your kid broke your leg, would you want your kid to just sit there with a broken leg, or would you want them to be able to go to the hospital and not have a $500 or $1,000 emergency room bill because you don't have health care? Set it straight for me, because I really don't understand. Why do we live in this day and age where common decency, humanity, I speak about this being the period of Lent, and how in Luke chapter 9, Jesus basically feeds and clothes 5,000 people. I said 500 or 50 because I'm a new Catholic, but I didn't know the figure, but it was actually 5,000 people. The Bible is like, dude, if someone is hungry, if someone needs shelter, if someone is needing of something, you help that person. And it's like these extremists want to not help people. And that's what's being picked up with popularity. That's what's popular these days. It just is absolutely insane to me. So anyway, the other thing is that she was one of the first really outspoken proponents of same-sex marriage. And you know how I feel about same-sex marriage. It's like, dude, what happens in your bedroom is your business. If you want to marry a woman, you want to marry a man, that's none of our business. You're a tax-paying citizen, so you should be able to enjoy the same rights, around marriage, around, sharing a combined income with a partner as a heterosexual couple is. That's not my business. I don't know. But, yeah, Nancy Pelosi, I see her that she has really, really made history. And the fact that, so many people have come after her. I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen with Hakeemjeffries because, like President Obama, he has an Arabic-sounding name, and he is a black man. So I'm really curious to see if they are going to vilify him to the level which they vilified Nancy. And my idea would be, the answer would be no. Because it's like being a woman, a stinking, nasty woman, trumps being a black man. It's like, oh, he's a man, so we'll let it slide. But maybe not. Maybe the hate is just that serious. It's that all of them go in there. Women, gay people, black people, Jews, just throw them all in there. But Nancy Pelosi, I am so, so proud of her accomplishments. What a strong advocate, what a strong politician, and I'm so sorry that history has done this to her. I am so, so sorry. You know, like, for the people who might see this video 50 years from now, 100 years from now, just know that we all weren't like that. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you in the next video. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know whenever I post a video. I'll see you in the next one.